talking earlier about bullying. It's been gradually getting like more and more cases of it through the last few decades. Why do you think that is?
So I believe bullying, depression and suicide, they're obviously getting worse. They're more prevalent now. We're seeing it a lot more in the media. There's a lot more cases and everyone seems to be blaming social media. That's not really the reason. Like, I'll be straight, this is a tough conversation. It's very confronting, but it's our lack of ability to deal with adversity. Now, it's really hard to understand why this is happening and why this is increasing. It's hard to overcome it until you understand why. And I haven't heard it, but over the past 5.5 years, I've been really looking for that answer, and I finally had an epiphany this morning, and I think I've finally worked it out, right? If anyone's seen that Simon Sinek, have you seen the Simon Sinek Millennials speech that went viral?
No.
Look it up on YouTube, it's amazing. And he talks about, in his words, not mine, and they say it's not his, it's someone else's, but failed parenting strategies since around the mid-80s, so the millennials. And I was thinking about it, right? And what's been happening since around mid-80s is where now kids aren't riding to school as much. Did you see in the paper on Monday, this is part of the massive problem, they're now taking a grand final away from kids until they're 13 in AFL. There's no grand final, there's no scores.
Okay,
okay, so this is the problem, right? We lose more than we win in life. Purely lose more than we win. The best thing about a grand final is if there's 12 teams, there's only one that win, and they worked the hardest and played the smartest and trained and earned it.
Yeah.
And then the 11 learnt how to take a loss, learned how to overcome adversity. Now then I looked at it and I was like, this has been gradually getting worse and worse since around the mid-80s. What happened in the mid-80s? Colour TV came out. TV started going into every single house, and our ability and information from around the world and news started to come into our homes, where previously wasn't so much. So we started to see, and as we all know on the news, what happens? Probably 80% of it's bad. People dying, school shootings, stuff happening. Ebola was around the 80s. You know, all this stuff kept happening. We started to see it. So therefore, we subconsciously, as parents, went, oh, I don't want my child to go through that. I need to protect, I need to protect, I need to protect. And I completely understand that and want to protect your child, that you don't want to, no one wants to bury their child or see them go through something that's going to cause depression or suicide. But the unintended consequence of this, so kids aren't riding to school anymore, they're not having finals in sport, they're getting an award when they're coming last, which actually proves to be the complete adverse effect of what we're trying to achieve. This, basically the way I can put it down is we're standing on their toes. So as a society and adults, parents, teachers, we're constantly standing on their toes because we don't want to see them upset or hurt or cry in the short term, but that's affecting their long-term ability to deal with adversity. So now, so the long-term effect of that is when 7-year-olds aren't dealing with the 7-year-old problem, they're not learning how to deal with an 8-year-old problem, a 9-year-old problem, and by the time they're 25, they've had no practice at all in dealing with problems because we've tried to protect them and we've tried to help as much as we can. And so the long-term effect of that is when they go through the first breakup, or get fired from their first job, or fail university, or if they start a business and it fails like 95% of them do, and we're now in an entrepreneurial stage, we can't deal with it.
Yeah.
Because we never practice dealing with it. There's such a good side of bullying and adversity and challenges, but for some reason we're so scared of it. And it is because now it's getting worse because we're seeing it in our hands. And we're seeing it on our phones. We're getting news alerts from Channel 7 and stuff when bad stuff's happening. Now, we're scared of our children getting abducted. The likelihood of that is so fucking low, it's not even funny. Yet we're so scared of it because we're seeing someone get abducted in Mexico. But then the long-term effect is now we're driving them to school even up until the age of grade 12, that doesn't teach them anything about road rules, about getting somewhere, about thinking to themselves, common sense on everything. So it's so scary. Now, why I believe it's going to get worse. So we're only just really starting to see it. Suicide is the #1 killer from the age of 7 to 44 in Australia. That is crazy.
Yeah.
Now, when you think, if you want to protect your child and you don't want to bury them, the #1 thing you need to protect them from is depression and suicide. How do you protect them from that? Is teaching them how to overcome challenges and adversity and bullying themselves, and don't stand on their toes and rob them of that and enable them. #1 thing. You can teach this from such a young age, but we're starting to see the effects of what started to happen in the mid-80s now, because suicide's #1 killer to 44. So we're seeing suicide is huge up until 44. And it's going to continue to increase and continue to increase. And sadly, until we start having tougher conversations. If I could give any advice, you can start so young, even when they're at preschool, and if they're coming back and saying, hey, this person's bothering me, or they're doing this, or they've taken my truck, purely, the answer is, why is it bothering them? Why are you letting this person bother you? Why are you letting this other kid who, do you want to be friends with them? Probably not. No, they're mean. Great. Go surround yourself with other people. Don't let them bother you. They're doing it to get satisfaction from you, which is making you cry or upset. Learn how to overcome it yourself. Learn how to overcome them. Don't give them the satisfaction that they want. But we need to stop standing on their toes. Like, please, please, please. Like, it's getting worse, and it's getting worse at a younger age. And why it's now happening younger is because we're growing up faster because of technology. Technology is giving us this beautiful ability to grow up faster, which I love. But because we're growing up faster with information and we're seeing more, the only thing that we're not matching is we're not helping children grow up emotionally faster. We're actually doing the opposite. So we're protecting them to the point where they're growing up like this, but we're actually pulling their emotions down so they can't deal with challenges or adversity or bullying or whatever might be happening on the playground. They can't deal with it because we've enabled them from a younger age out of the kindness of our heart, because we don't want to see them hurt or go through anything that we went through. We need to match that emotion as they're coming up with challenges. Whatever is happening to your 7-year-old, 9-year-old, or 10-year-old should be dealt with by them, because it's practice to when they get to 25. It is child's play to what happens as an adult. It's like there's such a good side of it. And if we don't start to do that, and we don't start to have tougher conversations now, the ramifications are going to start to get worse.
Yeah.
But again, I understand now why. Because in mid-80s, we started to see more of what's going on, and as parents, we started to get scared more. And because previously in the 70s, 60s and 70s, you'll be right, go walk to school, you'll be fine, go do this, go do that, because we didn't see what was going on around the world. Now we see so much more, we're becoming so much more afraid.
Yeah. And
that fear is then driving us to become irrational, and that irrationale is overtaking when our children are having to overcome adversity, and we're doing that. I need to go and protect. It's that protect mode. Now, the #1 tip is please don't stand on their toes to overcome a challenge or adversity.
Yeah.
Let them do it themselves and teach them. Every single time something happens, it is practice. Think of it as practice to help them overcome their first breakup of love. They're getting fired from their first job, maybe going bankrupt, losing their house, going through a GFC. All these things are coming. As we know as adults, life gets tougher. Let them practice. Let them train. If you like this, please share it. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment any specific stories, anything you want us to give our opinion on through our experience. Thank you so much for watching. Much love.